And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. It's good to be back with you today. That's right. We are broadcasting live from the Sunset Strip in the entertainment capital of the world, Hollywood, from our in-show studios on the Sunset Strip. And we have a great in-studio guest, Mr. Stephen Endelman. Boy, Stephen, you're such a prolific musician. It's fantastic. Thank you for being here with us today.
Whoa, Gus, thank you for having me on your show today.
Oh, my.
What a lovely introduction that was.
Oh, thank you very much. You know, it's when you meet people who are so talented and have done so much with that talent, you know, it's what a great example to people who are out there struggling, thinking, can I make it? Is my talent that good? And here you are as a shining example, as you've done music for the movie industry for how long? 20
years. It's almost 20. Almost. I don't want to age myself too much.
Yes.
Exactly. It's almost 20 years since my first feature was on the air, in the cinema, I should say.
Right. Now tell us the first one.
Oh, I love this one. The first one was a movie called Household Saints. It was my first feature. It was my first studio feature. It was directed by the wonderful Nancy Savoca, and it was a New York Italian movie full of the usual suspects today, like great cast, Vincent D'Onofrio, Lily Taylor, and Michael Rispoli.
Michael
Rispoli, who is in this movie Rob the Mob.
Yes.
And in between, 10 years ago, almost to the day, was in Two Family House.
Really?
So I saw Michael on Sunday night in New York, and we had a laugh. You know, I've scored a movie every 10 years that Michael's been in. So I figure I've got another maybe 30, 40 years. So that's like...
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that was my first movie, right? Household Saints.
Household Saints. And when you got that film...
Yes.
You know, tell me about that. How was that? I'm sure you were just on cloud nine.
No, that was a crazy experience. I was in New York. I'd been there for like 8 months, and I was literally thinking about, if I don't make some money pretty soon, that bus is coming back to take me back to England, and I'll go back to working in London. And then two things happened. I suddenly got a call from the Metropolitan Opera and asked me to be a composer in residence for them. So I said, that's cool, okay. It's not going to pay a lot of money, but it may keep me out of the streets. And then a music supervisor, Jeffrey Kimball, who I'd met, said, there's this movie I'm working on, and maybe you should come and see it. So he invited me to the movie, and there were all the usual New York suspects, Stuart Copeland, all these other composers. I saw the movie. At the end of the movie, I met the director. She was a really wonderful, lovely, warm person with an enormous baby in the tummy, like weeks away from giving birth. And somehow, I must have said hello nicely. She invited me with everybody else up for the interviews. So I drove up to Nyack with Jeffrey, because she was cutting in Johnathan Demi's cutting rooms, and he was the executive producer on the movie. So I drive up to Nyack, I sit opposite Nancy. There's Johnathan Demi's Academy Award for Silence of the Lambs staring me right in the face. I'm looking at this award, my knees are shaking, and she says, well, what do you think you'd do musically? And I said, you know what, there's 4 bars that you use, no vocal, but there's a 4-bar introduction in one scene, which is from an opera that no one knows, because it's so rarely performed in the United States. It's called La Rondine by Puccini. Da 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 dee da da da. And I said that should be the starting point for the score. 2 weeks later, I was on a payphone talking to my wife, I think, and she said, Nancy Savoca just called. I called Nancy, and she said, you want the job? And I just fainted. I literally passed out. She said, look, here's the deal though. The baby's going to be here in about a week's time. It's going to take me 2 weeks to get over that. So can you be up here in 3 weeks with the music? Play me the music. I said, no problem. What else do you say? You say yes.
Yeah, that's right. You're dying inside, right?
So I was so monumentally excited.
You're right.
Yes. That's how it all started, really.
Look at that. such a sequence of snaps. Looks like right when the door was open, the floodgates came
Kind of
through.
what happened.
That's amazing.
And then it dried up very quickly, because it always does. It's what you just said at the beginning, the way you introduced me. I was thinking, if you're out there and you're young and you're listening, or if you're as young as me,
That's
and
right,
you're
yes.
Gus and I, we're both very young.
Yes, of course.
And you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, I've been at this for a while. The more I think about it, perseverance, persistence. If you have a dream, you never give up on that dream.
Yes.
You're going to get curveballs.
Right.
You're going to think you've reached the top, but you haven't. You're going to be at the top, you're going to be at the bottom. But even any one of those positions and everything in between, if you still think you've got something to say and you believe it in your heart genuinely, then you'll never give up. And at some point, you'll get the break, get the thing that you need most.
Fantastic. Wonderfully said. The pearl of wisdom right there. And, coming from someone who has the career for almost 20 years. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but it's not, but it is an up and down profession.
Sure.
And I think I've been very fortunate, obviously. There isn't a day that doesn't go by when I don't thank the gods and everybody else for this, because, it could be so much worse.
Right.
It really could be so much more horrible.
Right. What everyone always says, I could be doing something, I always remember what they say, something manual with my hands, or, something vastly different.
Yeah.
And here you are working with your passion.
And I remember in, one of my early films, obviously after Household Saints came, I think the next one was a wonderful film, also with not a dissimilar cast, called Imaginary Crimes, which I love. I still love that movie. And with Harvey Keitel, also Vincent D'Onofrio, and the same editor of Household Saints was the editor on that picture. There's a little group of us, and we've stayed very close for a very long time. Skip Livesey, who recently won the Academy Award for Sound Mixing on Gravity, is one of that group, and we're still very, very close friends. Very close. Calling out to Skip and Beth and Tony right now. Anyway,
That's right.
anyway, just to say, and then Bronx Tale after that, of course, another monumental. Listen, we're talking my idol there in that room.
Wow, De Niro.
Bob De Niro.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit with Bob De Niro and we're going to work on this music for his movie.
Yes.
That's like a fairy tale. That really was a fairy tale for me, because the first book I think I ever read was under my sheets, because it was banned in my house, was The Godfather, because I was only 9.
Oh, okay.
The Godfather, the book.
You're right.
And my mother's like, what are you doing under there? I'm reading. Oh, good. You're reading. That's okay. It's a little book. And now, of course, I've done quite a few Wise Guy movies.
You're right.
Yes. I'm very lucky. But what I was going to say was, I went to, then a few years later, I got to go to London for the first time to record a score at Abbey Road for The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill But Came Down a Mountain.
Really?
And so there I am in London with the orchestra, conducting the orchestra, in that monumental room.
Yes.
With those musicians, friends I'd been to college with, playing in the band, in the orchestra. I'm standing there, and I just remember turning around to Gavin, who was the concert master, and saying, Gavin, it doesn't get much better than this. And he turned around and said, yep, you could have been a postman. I could have been a postman. It's like crazy, right? And then you go into Studio 2 and you look at the organ, the organ that, they played, and all those Beatles tracks. And, and then you think, my God, this was Elgar's house. Edward Elgar's home was Abbey Road. And I was like back in before, I was a huge Elgar fan. Massive. You couldn't not be.
Right.
And so,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Talking about Abbey Road, whoever sets foot in there always says, it's like you're transporting the time, back in time, the atmosphere. It seems like the air is even aged. Everything, like you're,
But they don't change a thing there, thank God. The walls in the actual live room, I don't think have ever been changed, because there's a mystery about it. It's a weird, it's one of the few rooms. It's not. I don't know what this is, but it's one of the few rooms that you can make 40 players sound like 80 players
That's fantastic.
if you write properly for them.
Yes.
But you can make it sound like that.
Yes.
And just, I mean, it's just the vibe, the bar, everything is perfect there.
Yes.
It's just like you walk in and it just feels such a history
Right.
that goes back before recorded sound, quite honestly.
Right. That's
So
amazing.
if Elgar on a good day is channeling,
Yes.
the Enigma variations down on you, or the
The-
cello concerto, please.
Please.
Yeah.
That explains the resonance and the ambiance. You have such a rich knowledge of history. Do you consider yourself a music historian?
No, not really. I'm not a music historian. I have a little bit of knowledge about a few things.
Yes.
I mean,
Understand.
I grew up in the world of classical music.
Yes.
When everybody else was listening to Queen, I was listening to Mozart. When everybody else was learning to play the guitar, I was learning to play the clarinet.
Yes.
So that's what I was. I was a clarinet player. I was you'd call it over here a long-haired musician, right?
Right.
Because I was a classical guy. I missed out on all the fun of rock and roll. And now I say thank God, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here if I had. But when other kids were playing, I was practicing.
Yes.
And so I got a pretty good, well-rounded knowledge in classical music. Then I went to school and graduate school, and that just continued that as a composer.
Right.
But I never... So that world I know quite well, I think.
Yes.
Now then, film was different.
Right.
I'm a film composer today more than anything else.
Yes.
My love was always in the motion picture. I always had a complete love for motion picture and television, but
Yeah.
particularly motion picture.
Yes.
But I'd never really paid that much attention to that music until I once, I don't know what year it was, probably in the early 80s, maybe 82, 83. I watched Once Upon a Time in America, the long version, the
complete.
the complete
Right.
3.5 hour version
Yes.
with, I think, one of Ennio Morricone's greatest scores. Now, I'd loved Ennio Morricone's movies.
Yes.
I mean, I'd grown up watching, all the spaghetti westerns, and
Right.
and now there was this score, and I heard it, and I thought, wow, this is opera in the 20th century. This is what opera is now.
Yes.
And this is the way you construct a score,
Yes.
is as you would construct an opera. And I'd written one opera by that point, but not anymore. And
Right.
I'd written a lot of classical music, but it really dawned on me that the way he'd infused the themes and the characters, and those characters had flowed throughout that movie.
Yeah.
Without that music, there wouldn't have been a movie like that.
Right.
The music for that movie, and then I went back and looked at his other scores, and I thought, right, that's exactly right. Now, and so that's when I started that area of my life and started to really delve in to certain composers who I learned to deeply respect for various reasons.
Right.
Ennio Morricone for his music,
Yes.
for his music and those movies. Leonard Rosenman, because he was a guy who'd studied with Schoenberg, which was much closer to my style, my natural style of music.
Yes.
And he'd put that in movies until they said you can't do that anymore. And it was very sad. And he and I actually had pieces performed at a concert together,
Yes.
which was monumental for me. And then, of course, John Williams,
Yes.
who, whether you like his music or not, I argue that as far as a dramatist in music,
Yes.
there ain't no one like him.
Right.
He is a brilliant dramatist. Brilliant, quite brilliant.
Right. It's something you aspire to? Do you feel like you've reached that level right now in your career?
No, I don't. I don't know that reaching. I don't believe that. I don't think of it like. I don't know. Genuinely, people. If you think about it like that, like I've reached. What do you don't reach Everest? What does that mean?
Right.
No, I don't know that I've reached anything. I think that I'm still learning. I hope I'm still learning.
progressing.
I think it's always a process.
Yes.
And for me, I've been really fortunate because I've done such a diverse set of movies
Yes.
that I've been able to just keep going and learn and learn and learn and learn and learn,
Yes.
as opposed to getting fixed in one area.
Right. You raised up so many interesting points for me, as you're talking. And one is, when you look at a film score, someone contacts you. I want to do Rob the Mob.
Yeah, Rob the Mob. That's what we're supposed to be talking about.
Yes.
Let's get back
Hey,
to
look
the
at that.
movie that I've just done. Rob the Mob. Well done, Gus.
When someone brings you a movie like that, is there now a connection for you in regards to music and cinema? Is it a music score that you're going to add to the film, or is it now you're a blending? You're trying to find some sort of symbiosis that's going to work, and now this new creation comes out. I'm wondering how that works for you. Are you a composer? Are you like a composer for film? How do you view yourself? Is it compartmentalized like that, or are you just, I'm a composer and how it comes out?
No, but I think you raised a very good point there. I think the success in this movie robbed them up, particularly with the music and my contribution. And I didn't really figure that out until I went to see it with an audience on Sunday night at the premiere in New York, is how the music is embedded in those characters. It's part of them. And that's because when I first read the screenplay, and then Raymond had this idea that he would come to my studio and we'd work on it. He'd cut in one room, and next door I'd be writing music, and we'd pass it like this. And it was like we were making one baby together.
Right.
And I fell so in love with our central characters, Tommy and Rosie, and their mercurial love affair.
Yes.
That just transports you when you watch the movie into this crazy 1992 New York world where these two kids are so mind-bogglingly stupid to think that they could get away with robbing the social clubs of the wise guys.
Yeah, exactly. As I was watching the film, I was thinking, that old adage, is this madness or is this genius? Because they're walking into a place that they know there are no guns, and what are they going to do? Then they got away with it, for a little while, which is fascinating. But talking about the music, I think you hit something so right on the head. It reminds me of remember the old Joe Friday? He walked in, dun 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 dun. It was so personalized, and that's what I'm hearing. That each character has a theme.
Yeah, in that movie there are themes for the characters, and they're because the characters in that movie are all flawed, but
Yes.
we're all flawed.
Yes.
Humanity is flawed.
Yes.
So that for me is very important when I'm writing music. It's to find the essence of those characters in the music.
Yes.
And the thing about Raymond DeFelitta, the director, we did another movie together, which was set in Staten Island, called Two Family House, and he and I had a symbiosis there with that movie.
Yes.
He knew that what to send me. He sent me the saddest moment in that film. It was the end of the movie, or the sweetest moment. It was the sweetest moment of the film, and he said this the other day. He said, when I watched the very first cue that you'd ever sent me, Stephen, he sent me the whole movie, and that's right. He'd sent me the whole movie. I decided to score the end first with the theme, and then work backwards. And he said, when you sent me that, which I thought was so brave,
Yes.
you just sent it to me fully orchestrated, ready for me to listen to. He said it made me cry. So
Amazing.
we cut forward.
Yes.
So this time he's on set. He said, Stephen, I'm going to send you the first scene that I've got ready for you, and you're going to do to that what you did to me in Two Family House. I said, it's not the same music.
Right.
No, but I'm going to send you the most emotional scene. So he sent me the scene where Tommy confronts his mother for the first time.
Oh, wow.
He's been in prison, comes out. Kathy Moriarty,
Yes.
Raging Bull fame, she gives a stellar performance, and they meet, Michael Pitt and her. And it was just he was visceral. Well, it's so visceral, that scene, and she's so angry with him because she believes that he killed his father, her husband,
Yes.
and he believes that the mafia killed his father.
Right.
So they're both full of hate,
Yes.
but I didn't score it that way. I didn't score anything like that,
Right.
because to me it wasn't hate and anger, it was sadness,
Pain. Yes.
pain, angst. And I don't score it really in a conventional that way either. It's not sappy at all, it's not sentimental, it's very raw,
Yes.
because the movie's very honest. It's a really honest movie.
Right. Yeah, and I think another great point. I think that's exactly what it is. It's an honest telling of a true story portrayed honestly by these great actors.
Amazing performances. Andy Garcia, come on, Ray Romano, but Andy Garcia as the aging Don.
Yes.
Who's like looking up at the sky and thinking, my son's been dead for 8 years. I've got this little grandson who I adore. That's it. Do I want him to be like me?
Yes.
But I need him to respect me too. They need to. Everybody. It's just so confusing, and he's going to spew out how he even got there. He was just like a man who made rice balls in a food truck.
Yes. Yes. You bring up some great points. I'm thinking because I had interviewed Raymond right after the panel, and I told him for me there was a couple. The whole movie was great. Scenes that really brought it home. One was Ray Romano in the bar. He's like, what are you guys doing? Protect these kids, and it was just so truth. Another one was Andy Garcia when he's talking into the chandelier.
At the end.
Yes, and it's interesting that it's these moments. They're small. It's just them, especially Andy Garcia. It's just him, and everything. Then what happens afterwards? The music. I think it could have been done more perfectly.
I agree. I mean, with the Ray and Andy are very interesting because in the movie, Ray Romano is the journalist who basically exposes the kids because he calls them Queen's Own Bonnie and Clyde, and he didn't obviously put their names or anything like that, but he realized that once they started seeing themselves in the newspapers, he had exposed them in such a way that there was no way they were going to get away with this.
Yes.
So he becomes the moral fiber of the film at that point.
Yes.
And he goes to them and he goes, "With these, you got to get out of town now. There is no time." Now, I'm never sure whether they knew they were about to get killed, so it didn't matter, or they just thought maybe they'd get away with it. I don't know, but they don't get out of town. They throw the airline tickets back at him.
You're right.
And the other side of that is Andy Garcia telling the feds, "Okay, you've got me.
Yes.
You pay me the respect I deserve. Don't handcuff me when you come to the house. Treat me and my family with some dignity.
Yes.
And I will give you everything you need.
Yes.
I will come in peacefully."
Right.
But he says it very cryptically, and he says it up to his chandelier in the kitchen where he knows he's being bugged.
Yes.
The feds actually are the least. They're the worst in it all, aren't they? You hate the feds.
You do,
There's
don't you?
There's no moral ambiguity there whatsoever.
I mean, again, there are so many threads. When I was watching Andy Garcia, for those of us that have children and such, you see at what point do you start to change your perspective? It's kind of a question I had asked them. They said, would you have made this, would your characters, the way you portrayed them, would it have been different 10 years ago than you are now? Because now, we're older, supposedly a little more wiser, because you look at the thing as like when you have children, you want the respect, you want, I'm your father and such, but there comes a moment, when do you get past that? Because there seems to be a limiting point. When do you then, I'm dad, and let's play, and you're gonna learn to talk, and then inevitably you're gonna learn to talk back to me. Yeah. Because it goes from respect then to love and affection, or it should be that from the beginning. And that's what Andy portrays. And I think when you're talking about a theme, that's what your music brings out. When you hear this, it's like, wow, it draws you in. I mean, you have to see the film and hear the music, which I have some experts here to want to do. But one last question. I got to take a quick break. When you saw the finished product, like you saw it with an audience at the premiere.
Yeah, I'd seen it lots of times before, but that was the first time I'd seen it with a large group of people. Yeah.
What was the feeling that you got when everyone was watching and hearing the music? That just like, were you engulfed in yourself? Were you aware?
No, I was present, very present. I was aware that people were laughing a lot, which was great.
Yes.
Some of it's very funny.
Right.
But I'm always amazed at the very end of the movie. I don't want to give too much away.
Yes.
For people who haven't seen it, but there is a gasp, a palpable gasp.
Yes.
A gasp that it more resembles a horror movie than the movie you're about to see, and it's got nothing to do with the music, because the music there is the most It's their love theme being played.
Yes.
And it's just so, I was totally in and enjoying the whole experience. It was wonderful. It's really wonderful.
Fantastic. Isn't that great when it's everything you had hoped for, and hopefully even more than that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Stephen, thanks for coming in. I do want to give a great thanks to Costa Communications as well, Ray and Albert, for being a great support of the In Show. I'd like to thank them as well. And this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to the In Show, and we have in-studio guest Mr. Stephen Endelman, and we've been talking about just his music and his latest score from Rob the Mob, and we're going to have a lot more of him in our next segment. So you hang in there. We'll be right back. And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. It's good to be back with you today. That's right. We are broadcasting live from the Sunset Strip in the entertainment capital of the world, Hollywood, from our In Show studios on Sunset. And, of course, we have a fantastic guest, Mr. Stephen Endelman. Stephen.
Fantastic.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's easily said. I mean, just some of the films that I've known that your music has been on, like, for instance, Bronx Tales. I mean, who doesn't know that film? There are themes from films that are so successful, they just stick in your head. You're mentioning The Godfather. Who doesn't know, as soon as that music starts, that at least the film.
Yeah, they do.
The violin. That's The Godfather, and so on. And, your music is so unique. And, because we're going to listen to one of the songs from Rob the Mob, but I know you play the clarinet.
Yes, I was a clarinetist.
You were a clarinet. I guess isn't it like you always were and you always will be?
No, I tell you what, it's interesting. That's a very interesting point. I didn't go through all this training to become a musician.
Yes.
A clarinetist.
Yes.
A composer. I think when I got out of the womb,
yes,
I was a composer. I was a musician.
Right.
Eat, sleep, and drink it.
Yes.
All I did was go to school to learn to do it better, and then I do it better now because that's all I do every day.
Yes.
I've never imagined myself doing anything else, but I get the one thing that gets me. Whenever I've been in a teaching situation and I've heard young people or anybody say, I'm going to do all this training and I'm going to school and I'm going to become an artist. Well, that's a word that people use too much anyway. Yes. I'm going to become, let's say, a musician.
Right.
And I look at them, you either are or you're not.
Nice.
The process will make you better.
Wow.
But if you don't know that you are in your heart,
yes,
this is nothing you can ever aspire to.
Yes.
You have to be that.
Wow.
That's why I really respect people who find themselves on the wrong path. They become lawyers when all they ever wanted to be is writers. And then they find themselves on the right path.
Yes. So. And it seems, curious in your opinion, because I see if you make a course correction, if you're fortunate enough, the doors seem to fly open.
Yeah, they do.
Or maybe it's your perception, maybe because you're just happy or doing what you're doing, you feel the doors open.
I think so, and I think maybe I just feel like, persistence,
yes,
luck, all these things have a lot to do with having a career anyway.
Right.
Talent, obviously.
Yes.
Luck, again. And persistence.
Yes. Just keep at it.
Just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Just never give up.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Yeah, you take the L train from Brooklyn. I don't know, but
talking about that's funny. You love cinema.
Yes.
And I enjoy all sorts of cinema. One of my favorites are the older movies, but like Danny Kaye movies and Marx Brother movies, when they insert their musical talent. Watching Danny Kaye, just bring in, and he's so talented. Did you enjoy films like that?
I grew up on those because see, we didn't have that much television channels in England.
Okay.
We had a few things monumental. 8:10
yeah,
on a Monday night was Bonanza or the Virginian.
No.
So those were my two westerns. That's what I was allowed to watch.
Love Bonanza.
Then
Great
Sunday
ones.
afternoon, every Sunday afternoon, as a family,
Yes.
my mother, my sister, and I
would watch the Sunday afternoon musical. So we grew up watching musicals. That's what we did.
Yes.
That's all there was in our lives.
Yes.
And then Saturday morning
cartoons in the cinema. We
Yes.
had that. And then movies, but not on TV. They were in the cinema. We didn't,
Right.
you know, and there was one cinema in our area of London, and that's the one we went to.
Yes.
So it wasn't like we didn't have the 5,000 channels that you always see to around here. I
Right.
got there were 2, and then there were 3.
Right.
BBC One, BBC Two, and BBC Two was really just the university channel
Okay.
at that point, and news.
Yes.
And then we had ITV, and then Channel 4. But I think I must have already been pretty grown up when that came.
Really?
No cable, nothing like
No.
that. I never lived in England when there was cable.
Really? You live here?
I lived in America, yeah.
And you're saying, what is all this?
I didn't
Throw the remote control out the window.
couldn't believe it. Yeah. My God, I'm never going to get up again.
You gained 10 pounds just trying to get through the channels.
Yeah. Well, that was in New York, you see, so you got to walk a lot.
Okay. That's right. Then you got out here. Forget it.
Yeah, I got out here a couple of years ago, and it's like, walking? Who does that?
Yeah, exactly.
They look at you like you're crazy, right?
It's okay. Are we going to go walking to get a cup of coffee? What? Go through the drive-through.
No.
It's across the street. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, you know, I want to give a chance to hear the score from the movie. Tell me about this. We're going to listen to Christmas Day.
Okay, we're going to start at the end. Great.
Yes.
Well, there's one before.
Okay.
Christmas
Or
Day.
which one do you want to do?
No, Christmas Day's fine.
Okay.
This
Perfect.
is their love. This is their love theme.
Okay.
This is Tommy and Rose's love theme. It runs throughout the movie. This is really the only time we hear it in all its splendor. The
Yes.
rest of it's bits and bobs, and it really, it's Christmas Day. Well, you have to see the movie to know what I'm talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
But it's that's what it is. A beautiful moment on Christmas Day, and that's it.
That's
the end
it.
of the movie. The last piece of music, other than the one that we're going to hear after this, the song.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. All right. So here's Steve Endelman's Christmas Day from the movie Rob the Mob. Fantastic. I remember when I heard it in the theaters. It was a perfect way to end the movie. Did you? I know you score at different times. Did you score this one towards the end of the editing? Did you score it in the middle? I know you're going back and forth.
No, this was scored. I did this the last cue, I think. I mean, the theme had been written weeks before, but the last thing that we did was the very. I mean, it was we you know, after 5 weeks of
Yes.
being in my studio, the producers came from New York and they watched the movie
Yes.
and they couldn't believe it because, oh my God, that's a real movie. We have all the music in there and everything. But that was running at 2.5 hours.
You're right.
And now the movie is only 1 hour 46 minutes.
Yes.
So we took like that, and that took a bit of time to get right musically in every other way.
Yeah.
But by that time, we already had a movie. I mean, you could have watched a 2.5 hour movie.
Oh, easily.
But it wouldn't have been as much fun as what you've just watched, as what you watched.
Right.
What you're watching now at 1 hour and 46.
You think it would have been more like an epic if it was, a little
No,
longer?
I
Or
don't
do you think
think
it was just
so.
like a long movie?
It would just been a long movie. I don't think it would have played half as well as it does today.
Okay.
And so that's their love theme, and it occurs in a number of places in the movie.
Yes.
Quite a few places.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I mean, it's lovely. I think it's perfect. It's one of those themes that you're going to remember.
Well, I hope so. I really do. No, but you know what's interesting? I know it sounds a bit like a waltz, but it's not. It's not.
Nice.
If you really listen to it, you'll go, well, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it's in 6. It moves around a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to capture that kind of the mercurial funkiness of their peculiar. They're so in love, but they're so silly because
Yes.
they're doing such a silly thing.
Right.
And they don't even know they're doing anything so silly.
Right.
And she says it. Rosie goes, Ray Romano, when he's interviewing, he says, so do you think you did something wrong? Do you think there's anything wrong in what you're doing? And she looks at him and goes, no, nothing wrong. We figure they're robbers. We can just rob a bunch of robbers.
Someone who's a cinema aficionado. I like to play a little, little Freud every once in a while. Look at the characters.
Yes.
And I was doing that watching this film because most times it's the lady that has the sense.
Yes.
That'll tell you, relax, let's not do this, or, it's the calm head. But here, she seems to be feeding him as well and being a part of that. Did you, just as a, someone who watched the film, did you kind of get that feeling? Were you wondering why, she had a nice job and so on and so forth?
I think she's just so madly in love. And she thinks he's a genius. She goes, he's a genius, and he's really handsome.
Yeah.
I think she's so captivated by him.
That just goes anywhere.
And he's a good boy. He's not a bad kid. He's lost. He's nothing wrong. He's a lost boy.
Right, yeah.
And she'll just go with him.
Yeah.
To the end, she'll go with him. I don't think at first she was really scared, when
Right.
she's scared and she goes, no, I don't really want to do that. And then when he pulls the gun out of the fridge and she screams, or she
right.
sees the gun and pulls it out. What's that? Well, if Conan Powell says it's okay,
Yeah, you're right, right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They don't have guns in Wise. They don't have guns. Guns and Wise guys don't go together.
Yes,
But then, she goes along for the ride.
yes. That's amazing.
Don't
isn't
all wives eventually go along for the ride? I don't know.
We shouldn't let the wives hear that.
No. God, I hope mine's not listening now. I'm in trouble now.
That's right. You know what happens, that group dynamic.
Yeah.
The men get around, they start pounding the chest. The wives come in, yes, dear.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, what a perfect lead into the next little bit. It's called the next song, Love and the Gun.
Right, now this is fun. So we're watching the movie, and we decided that Raymond, the director, decided that, these wise guys would listen to Italian 60s pop music.
Yes.
So he said, Stephen, let's write an Italian 60s pop song. So I said, well, give me a lyric and I'll write the song.
Yeah.
So Raymond said, okay. So in his mind, he wanted to write a song in Italian and make it sound translated into English. Now, he doesn't speak Italian, but he went back to New York, and in the play, he came up with this lyric that could be translated into Italian and backwards, and you'd think it was an Italian lyric translated into English.
Okay.
So there he is, sends me the lyric, I listen to it, and then we worked on it, and we fell in love with it. We brought in a terrific singer who'd been recommended to me. Her name is Tamala D'Amico. She was a New Yorker, Italian, Italian-American, And I just thought she'd be a good fit. She speaks both languages. And then Raymond said, okay, we're going to put this, every time the kids go to the robbery, we're going to hear a bit of the song. So the first time you hear it, it's in Italian. The second time it's in English. The third time it's a kind of sort of funky version of the song. I don't mean funky musically, I mean it's just kind of abstract version of the song.
Nice.
And then at the end of the movie, after that piece you just heard, you hear the full version of the song.
Beautiful.
And it's exactly what it is. It's a kind of big, sort of epic 60s pop song with lots of cojones.
Stemming from a person who doesn't speak Italian, found the lyric and
Yeah. But he's Italian.
Yes, that's
He's
fantastic.
also an Italian American.
And brought it to a classical trained Englishman.
From London.
I love it.
What's all that about, right? How comes I've done so many of those movies too?
And which brings about perfection. I love it. All right. So here's Steve Endelman's Love and a Gun.
When you speak of one, you must speak of the other, for they are not each just one, each is the other. L'amore è la pistola. It's a dance, isn't it? Un ballo, no? Yes, one with a gun. Sì, è un ballo con una pistola. We do it only once, and when it's done, it's done. Fatto è fatto. Greater than one. Più grande di uno. Greater than love. Più grande dell'amore. Love is a chance to love with a gun. Greater than one. Più grande di uno. Greater than love. Più grande dell'amore. Love is a chance to love with a gun. For we have the love, abbiamo l'amore, and we have the gun, e abbiamo la pistola. When they speak of us, they speak of the love and the gun, dell'amore e la pistola. Greater than one, più grande di uno. Greater than love, più grande dell'amore. Love is a chance to love with a gun. Più grande di uno. Greater than one, più grande dell'amore. Greater than love. Love is a chance to love with a gun. Love with a gun. Love with a gun. Come una pistola. Love with a gun. L'amore e la pistola.
What a great score! And I had a chance, to listen to all the tracks, and it's wonderful to hear someone who loves their craft and is at the top of their game, and you can just hear it. And it's beautiful to me. Do you feel that when you were done with this score? I hit it. This is exactly what we planned. Me and Raymond talked about it, and boom, we hit it. We hit the home run.
I have to say that that's a few times in one's life as a composer, as a musician, where you really feel like you got it right.
Yes.
And I'd say this is one of those times for sure. It was just, the whole thing was just wonderful. Working with Raymond was just blessed.
Yes.
I was blessed. It was a dream.
Yes.
The musicians I used were all amazing. It just felt like synchronistic. The only other times that it's happened to me is when I was on the movie I did with all those artists on To Lovely.
Yes.
Natalie Cole, she walks into the studio. I'd done this arrangement every time we say goodbye. We had a format for how we did every one of the artists. She walked in, I was rehearsing, she walked straight into the booth in London, in the room where I was rehearsing with the orchestra. She started to sing, and then I guess we did another thing, push play. We didn't even realize it was a take. And by the end of it, what had happened was people from outside Air Lyndhurst who were in the other rooms in the studio, like George Martin and his son, and who else was on there? A lot of people, right? They were all there.
Yes.
And it was one of those moments, synchronistic. She just, at the end of the song, she said, "Stephen, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. We're done." And I said,
Wow.
You're absolutely right, Natalie. You are a goddess.
Wow.
And I did that with with Cheryl and Alanis and Robbie Williams. They're all great.
Yes.
But I think this score, I don't want to say it's like, The Englishman was a great score, and I love that music. And
Yes.
I kind of loved everything I've ever written, to be honest. But there's something about the blending of the characters in this movie and the music that feels very, very genuine to me.
Yes.
And I loved every character.
Yes.
I love the music. I love the people I was working for. For me, it's all about that,
Right.
I think, working with Raymond, David Leonard, the editor, Tamala, my own people, Jimmy Hoyson, my engineer, produced the song with me.
Yes.
Awesome. My team, Saul Oris, my assistant, my Kevin Crean, my music editor. Everything just came together in a beautiful manner, and that's
Wow.
kind of rare. It really feels rare.
Yes. And you can
I can enjoy it.
Yes.
I can sit here and talk to you with a smile on my face and say, you know what? This feels really good listening to this. I like listening to this music.
Yes.
And so I hope people do. You can watch the video for the song on YouTube. It's called Love and the Gun. And the album is... Can I just be a pimp and pimp?
Oh, of course. No, this is the perfect time. We got a
Okay,
couple
great.
minutes left. Yeah, please.
The album is going to be available. You can pre-order it now on iTunes and Amazon. And then on the 18th of March, it is available for however you get your downloads, I guess.
Beautiful.
The world has changed a little bit.
Yes. No longer the record store at the corner and
No longer
lines.
Tower on Sunset, right?
That's right. Stephen, we only have a couple more minutes, but I wanted to ask you. You're such a fantastic musician. Do you ever go and play out there?
Good question. I haven't played for about 10 years, but I'm sort of yes. I am working with another singer who was singing. She just stopped singing with P-Funk.
Okay. Nice.
And we have a whole other thing. I kind of got into yoga a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I really got into one particular kind of yoga. And I've kind of taken her kind of P-Funk, George Clinton. She's a yogi.
Yes.
She does it for real.
Gotcha.
And together we come up with all this kind of funky, kind of yogi, kind of ish kind of music.
Yes.
But it's kind of cool, and it's
Right.
kind of a little trippy and interesting.
Yes.
Not just regular. It's not new age at all.
Right.
Because I'm not in love with that kind of music.
Right.
And so we're talking about playing live.
Yes.
Some of those big Satnam festivals where you get 3,000 or 4,000 people
Right.
coming and doing yoga and that, just for fun.
Right.
Just because
that's
I
awesome.
feel it's like really nice to get out there and play live occasionally.
Yes. Yes. So that being like in the next few months.
I think it's another 6 months.
Another
so
6
gotta
months.
Give myself some time.
It's been 10 years, right?
10 years.
That's
what
right.
happens, you know.
Like Michael Rispoli.
With Michael Rispoli.
Fantastic. And they'll be able to find more about that on your website, your Twitter, because I know you're social like that.
I'm trying to be social. I'm learning to be social. Yeah, I've got my Facebook page is coming together really well. My Twitter page, I'm learning. I've started a blog, and also I have a new webpage. It's stephenendelman.com. The new webpage will be up in 2 days' time, I believe. It's all being redesigned. It's really cool, actually. If it comes out the way I think it will do.
Yes.
And I'm really getting into that. And you know, I'm totally readily available on Facebook. You want to Facebook me and you message me.
Absolutely.
I'm totally open to answering questions. Any would-be composers out there or musicians who just want a friendly conversation,
That's right.
you know, it's okay. We're not monsters.
That's right. And a great person to glean that advice from, who's been there and continues to be there. Stephen, fantastic score. I loved your music. And thank you again for taking the time. Yes.
One other quick thing.
Of
the
course.
movie opens.
Yes.
In New York.
Yes.
First of all, March 21.
Yes.
At the Angelica, downtown, my favorite cinema in New York. The Angelica in New York. It opens March 21. And then it goes to 6 major markets immediately after that, the following week, I understand.
Yes.
And then hopefully you will see it in your Cineplex within 2 or 3 weeks after that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you, Gus.
You're welcome, Stephen. Stephen, again, thank you. Hey, well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to The In Show. And we had in-studio guest, Mr. Stephen Endelman. We've been listening to some of his great music. Of course, you can just type in his name in any search engine. You'll be able to find him socially, and be sure to look for him on all those great social media sites. And, of course, a great thank you to Ray Costa of Costa Communications and his great assistant Albert for being great friends of The In Show. Of course, also look for us at theinshow.com, where you'll be able to see this interview and so much more. And look for us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and all those great social media sites. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, Gus has left the building.